All right, let's just jump right in. I want you to imagine you're reading this ancient Ayurvedic text, the Ashtanga Hridya, and it describes one single therapy. But it says this therapy is so powerful, so absolutely fundamental, that it's not just a treatment, it's half of all treatments. What in the world could be that important?
I mean, just listen to that. Half of the treatment. And then it says some experts go even further and call it the full treatment. That is a massive claim. We're not talking about just some helpful suggestion here. This is a profound statement about its central role in healing. So, what is this therapy, and why on earth is it held in such high regard?
Okay, so here's how we're going to unpack this. We'll start with the core problem it's designed to fix, which is Vata imbalance. Then we'll get into what Basti therapy actually is, take a peek at the procedure itself, see how it's used in a full course, and then tie it all together to understand why it's considered so incredibly central to Ayurveda.
So, to really get the solution, you've got to first understand the problem, right? And from an Ayurvedic point of view, a huge number of health issues can actually be traced back to just one primary force in the body getting knocked off balance.
And that primary force is Vata. Now in Ayurveda, Vata is the energy of movement. Think air and space. It governs literally everything that moves and flows in your body. Your breath, your circulation, nerve impulses, even the blinking of your eyes. So when Vata gets out of whack, it can lead to all sorts of issues. Things like dryness, anxiety, and just general irregularity. To fix this, you need a seriously powerful tool to bring that Vata energy back into harmony. And according to the Ashtanga Hridya, Basti is the #1 tool for the job.
All right, so what is this legendary therapy anyway? Let's get a really clear definition, because it's way more specific and sophisticated than you might think. Okay, so at its most basic level, Basti is a therapeutic enema. But the origin of the name is actually fascinating. The word Basti literally means bladder. Why? Well, because in ancient times, they actually used an animal's urinary bladder as the pouch to hold and administer the medicinal fluids. It's a pretty cool glimpse into how this practice evolved, right?
Now, Basti isn't just one single thing. You've got two main types. On one hand, there's Niruha Basti. This one uses a medicinal decoction, kind of like a potent herbal tea, and its main job is cleansing. Then, on the other hand, you have Anuvasana Basti. This one uses medicated oils, or ghee, and its whole purpose is nourishment and lubrication. So you can think of it like a 1-2 punch. One cleanses and clears the path, the other rebuilds and nourishes. And just to give you the complete picture from the text, there are actually 3 forms mentioned. We've talked about the 2 big ones that work through the colon, but there's also a third, much more specialized type called Uttarabasti. This one is administered through the urethral or vaginal route, and it's used to target very specific issues in the urinary and reproductive systems. It really shows you how adaptable this core principle is.
Okay, so we've covered the why and the what. Now let's get into the how. How is this actually done? Well, the texts lay out a very specific and very careful procedure. Let's just walk through the oil enema, the Anuvasana, as an example. See, it's a whole process. First, the body is prepared, usually with some oil massage and a steam treatment to get it ready. Then, the patient gets into a comfortable position on their left side. The medicated oil is introduced very gently. And here's the most important part: retention. The whole goal isn't just to flush the system out, it's to give the body time to actually absorb all that medicinal goodness. And this just shows you how carefully the whole thing is monitored. The ideal goal is to hold that therapeutic oil for up to 9 hours, so it can really do its work. But there are also safety nets built in. If, for some reason, it isn't naturally expelled after a full day, steps are taken to help it along. So as you can see, it's a very controlled, very intentional process. Okay, now here's where things get really fascinating. BDR is almost never a one-and-done kind of thing. Nope, it's given as part of a highly structured, personalized course of therapy.
Yeah, we're talking about really sophisticated regimens that can go on for 8 days, 15 days, or even a full 30 days. And the absolute brilliance here is how they systematically alternate between those cleansing decoction bastis and the nourishing oil bastis to completely reset the system from the ground up.
So let's look at a classic example from the text, the Kala Basti, which is a 15-day course. You can see the intelligent design right here. It starts with a nourishing oil enema to prepare the body. Then for 10 days, it alternates: cleanse, nourish, cleanse, nourish. And it finishes with 3 straight days of oil enemas to deeply lubricate and stabilize everything. It's not random at all. It's a precisely engineered therapeutic journey. So let's bring it all back home. Let's go back to that huge, bold claim from the very beginning.
Why is this one thing considered half of all treatments? How could one therapy possibly be that foundational?
And here it is. This is the big secret. The reason for that incredible claim is that Basti isn't about chasing symptoms. Its real power, according to the text, is that it goes straight to the root cause, that agitated Vata dosha, and it pacifies it right where it lives, in its primary home in the colon. By restoring balance to the master force of movement in the body, it's believed to create a ripple effect that corrects imbalances throughout the entire system. It's about fixing the root, not the branches.
I mean, the Ashtanga Hridya really couldn't be any clearer. When Vata is seriously out of balance, there is simply no treatment more efficient, period. And that is why Basti is given such a high-status position. It's the ultimate tool for managing the one force that, when it goes haywire, is thought to drive most diseases.
And that just leaves us with this really amazing question to think about, doesn't it? If a single strategy, one that's focused purely on balancing a fundamental force in the body, can be seen as the key to fixing so many different problems, well, what does that tell us about where health and disease actually come from? It suggests that maybe, just maybe, the best path to being well isn't about fighting individual symptoms, but about restoring balance to the very core of how our bodies function.